see more evidence that the end of the turmoil, or the turmoil, is coming to an end. So today it was pending home sales, which is mainly sales at the bottom end of the market, people taking advantage of of interest rates, and also tax breaks for first-time buyers.
Perhaps the end of the fall.
Yeah.
In other words, we might hit bottom at some point, and that's making people
all the time,
encouraging investors.
Even yesterday, manufacturing is still not positive, but it's less negative than it was. So a slight improvement, and all that's bringing people back into the risk. Remember, interest rates are very low, so the slightest bit of good news is going to bring people into the market.
David, what did you make of Adcock Ingram? We're going to talk to Jonathan Lowe later, but walking away from this deal?
You can understand why, because Cipla in India said that if they could see no value in this deal, and therefore if the deal went ahead, they'd terminate supply. Which the stock exchange said, hold on a sec, we don't know anything about this, because they would never have allowed Cipla to have listed with those kind of conditions. Yeah. So I think that whole agreement is going to be looked into, that you can be held ransom to a supplier.
They might force them to delist.
Maybe. Something could happen. I'll see what the stock exchange have got to say about it.
Surely the listing on the JSE is not a right, it's a privilege. You have to go through certain requirements, and if you don't tell the truth at the time that you put your documents in, goodbye.
Well, I think this is what's come out of this whole due diligence investigation. So it means that they can stop the listing. They can really dictate how Cipla conducts themselves in South Africa, because this could have been a good deal for shareholders, but it's not up to shareholders to decide. It's up to Cipla in India.
Very strange. And the Public Investment Commissioner, Brian Molefe, who owns 13.5% of MTN, says he's not so sure that this is a good price from Barty.
Well, that's great bargaining. He's pushing up the price, which I think everybody supports now. So it looks like we're going to get a better price for MTN, and that pushed the price up today.
Motor vehicle sales, you can put any price you want in a motor car today, and it'll be hard to sell it, down 33%. So, in fact, 35% year on year. And that's after being down 43% in April. These are awful numbers.
They're terrible. It just shows you how bad sales are. And I think what distressed me more wasn't the passenger vehicle sales, but light delivery, which is really associated with business, with commercial side. So you can see how businesses are suffering, and how much how turnover is down.
What do you make of this ABSA increasing its stake in Blue Financial Services?
Well, I hope this is not a forced purchase. Last time it was a forced purchase. I don't know. I don't know enough about Blue Financial Services.
I look at it and hear, this is what I hear. I hear ABSA's gone up from 16 to 21%, but at the same time it's given them bridging finance, which we know is terribly expensive, of 120 million rand. Oopsie.
Alec, I don't know enough about the deal, but when you've got a 16% stake in a company, then you're forced to make sure that they get the bridging finance, and that for them to survive.
But just explain what bridging finance is.
Well, it's intermediate finance. It's where a company needs money fairly urgently, which they'll hope to replace at some other stage. So it's a gap, where a company needs short-term finance. Sometimes they call it mezzanine finance as well.
A bit like General Motors in the United States, which went bust. They desperately needed finance in a hurry, and as a result had to go into Chapter 11, which would be a good thing to have in South Africa, I guess, because it does protect a company and keeps a company going. But you're listening to SAFM's Market Update with Moneyweb, brought to you by Discovery Invest, a licensed financial services provider. We're staying with the motor industry now, and Fuel Focus is brought to you by Wasani Petroleum, fuel for energy, direct delivery. Let's hear from Bront Pretorius.
It is most unfortunate that we are going to have another fuel price increase, because